Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing an in-depth comparison and review video. When I saw Covergirl launch the newest Complexion launch, which is the Simply Ageless Skin Perfector Essence Hydro Fresh Tint, I immediately thought this could be so similar to Chanel Waterfresh Tint, which is one of my favorite complexion products of all time, if not my very favorite complexion product of all time. And I thought we could make this even more informative, and I'd also throw these into the mix because they are quite similar as well. So the Chanel Le Beige Waterfresh Complexion Touch, and then the one from Rose Inc., which is the Skin Enhance Luminous Tinted Serum. So first and foremost, what I do want to say about these products is they're not really geared towards creating a foundation-like effect or even like a tinted moisturizer. Those products actually have considerably more coverage and a completely different formulation than these products. These are serum tints. So when you think of like a lightweight skin serum tint that you, not tint, but a lightweight skin serum that you have in your skincare routine, that's basically the best way I can describe the way that these feel on your skin. So they mimic your skin's texture, and rather than kind of like sitting on top of your skin, they just sheer out the complexion, they kind of even out the skin tone, and they create a very hyper realistic effect on the skin. So if perfected skin and like a full flawless look is not your type of look, I think you could really lean into products like this and probably get a really great effect from them. You know me, I don't have perfect skin. I've got a lot of hyperpigmentation, and I still manage to get what I want out of these products. And the lightweight feel of these products is completely unbeatable in my opinion. Don't think Glossier Perfecting Skin Tint, because literally Glossier Perfecting Skin Tint could never, but these do provide a really gorgeous filter of coverage on the skin. So let's get started with the price points. Obviously, you know, with Chanel Complexion Touch, the Waterfresh Tint, and with the Rose Inc. Skin Enhance Luminous Tinted Serum, these are in the prestige category, so they are going to be a lot more expensive than the one from Covergirl. However, I personally feel like the Covergirl one was very expensive. I paid $25 for this, which is on the higher end, and obviously that's going to depend on not only where you purchase the product, but price points are going to vary city to city, state to state. $25 I think is like a little bit of a stretch, because I've also seen it for like 21, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's move into shades of these products. So I have some notes because I had a lot of things I wanted to hit. So with the Chanel Waterfresh Tint, I wear the shade Medium Plus. I also have two other shades that work really well for me, but my winter shade is Medium Plus. The Chanel Waterfresh Tint is available in 8 different shades. With Rose Inc., there are 14 different shades of this, and I wear the shade 080. For the Covergirl Skin Essence, there are 7 shades, and I wear the shade Medium 40. And then the Complexion Touch from Chanel is available in 16 shades, and I wear the shade B40. That's another thing I wanted to hit with these when talking about the shades. Because the shades are flexible and the product is so sheer and so fluid, you can really go a long way with the product. The shades will probably be flexible enough that more than one shade could work for you, even 2 to 3. However, with that being said, I do feel like because they're so sheer and, you know, look so realistic on the skin, you could actually bump down a shade or 2 darker, because it would just add a little bit more color to the complexion. However, I do feel like with these 3 really good shade matches, specifically with the Rose Inc. one, I feel like the undertone matches my skin so good. It like is just the right amount of warmth for me that it's very, very beautiful, really realistic. But then on that note, like with the Covergirl one, you see one that's a little bit a shade or 2 lighter than what I would like, when I feel like it's a little bit light for my complexion, it still works. So we'll save that for the demo. So the way that these products work, obviously if you're looking at them in the bottle, I think it's a really beautiful formula. Just aesthetically, I like the way that they look. You'll see little pigment beads throughout the formula. Those are what provide the skin with coverage and color when they burst. For application, like you could put it directly onto the skin and it will start to mix on the planes of your face as you're applying, or you can take a brush. I would personally recommend something a little bit more on the dense side, because the density of the brush is just gonna help aid you with kind of bursting those pigment beads and then kind of getting a little bit more coverage from the product as well. I find something dense like this actually helps the coverage of these products perform to its best and build a more visible amount of coverage on the skin. Something that I actually thought was pretty interesting about the Chanel products is that Chanel actually patented their technology behind these pigment beads, and it is called microfluidic technology. Covergirl calls theirs the micro droplet technology. Only saw the patent for the microfluidic technology with Chanel for the Le Beige Waterfresh tint, and the pigment beads in the Waterfresh are significantly, noticeably smaller than the ones in Complexion Touch and the Rose Ink one. On the ingredient deck for all 4 of these, glycerin is always, I want to say, in the top 3 to top 5. Obviously that's me trying to go off of memory, but glycerin was always really high up on these ingredient decks. I love glycerin. I think it's what really gives these products that nice skin-like finish and a little bit more slip, and then the ability to just remain really nice and moisturizing throughout the day without kind of getting greasy or oily. So I think that's something to note. If you like things that are a little bit more moisturizing, I was very happy to see glycerin on all of these. Now with all 4 of these products, there are certain ingredients that the brands have heroed. Now, I don't know how you feel about that. I personally don't lean into cosmetics, specifically like color cosmetics. I don't really lean into them for skincare ingredients, much other than like moisturizing properties and maybe an SPF. But other than that, I don't really expect my skin tint to like improve my skin's condition over time or even help with, you know, hyperpigmentation and things like that. So moving into each specific product's hero ingredients. So like I said, glycerin super high up on these ingredient decks, so take that into consideration. With Rose Ink, we have sodium hyaluronate, which is supposed to visibly plump and smooth lines. We also have squalane, which you know, personal favorite of mine. Very excited to see squalane on there. So with the squalane and the glycerin in this product, I do think that it attributes immensely to the effect that this product has on the skin. It's very moisturizing and does look very plump and bouncy. Looks very plump and bouncy on the complexion without looking oily or greasy. So it's like the best of both worlds. You feel moisturized, you feel dewy, you feel bouncy and plump. They've also highlighted acetyl tetrapeptide 2, which is supposed to provide environmental protection. Okay, so there's the Rose Ink. Moving into Covergirl's Essence. So Covergirl Simply Ageless Essence Perfector. It's right on the front of the bottle. They are highlighting 0.5 bakuchiol. Bakuchiol is supposed to be nature's natural alternative to retinol. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't have very much experience with bakuchiol. From what I could read, there was like one study that they did where it had a similar effect to retinol. You could look more into that if that's something that you're super concerned with. However, I'm personally not leaning into my skin tint to outperform or perform retinol properties on my skin when I'm wearing it. Like, that's just not something I'm looking for, but it is something to note, and it's something that they want to hero of the product. But this does also contain tranexamic acid, which is really great for melasma, sunspots, hyperpigmentation, discoloration on the skin over time. That can help lighten those problem areas on the base. However, again, I just don't know if I would like utilize this in the way that it would need to be utilized like every single day to get those effects from the product, because you can also get skincare like morning and night with those properties in them. Now with Chanel Waterfresh tint, the main product that they are heroing is tamarind seed extract. This is shown to increase skin hydration, elasticity, and smoothness. I read one study, so take that with a grain of salt. The tamarind seed extract was shown to outperform hyaluronic acid. Now with Chanel Complexion Touch, they are highlighting again the tamarind seed extract, and then they are also highlighting jasmine stem extract, which has soothing qualities to the skin. It is an antioxidant. It's good for calming inflammation. And again, with this one, glycerin, obviously, with all of them. Glycerin. Again, because these are serum tints, one of the unique characteristics of the formula is that they are extremely fluid. Like, they just feel like a drink of water for your face. So the water content on them is a lot higher. So with Covergirl, we're sitting at a 71% water content. Chanel Waterfresh is sitting at 75% water content. Chanel Complexion Touch, we are sitting at 60% water. And the Rose Ink one was the only one that didn't like brag about how much water was in the formula. I definitely don't feel like it's in the 70s, but maybe it is. But I feel like because of the amount of coverage you get from this, I'd say it's more comparable to Complexion Touch. Okay, so now we can move into the demo, so you can basically go based off of the one that you think looks the best. I have nothing negative to say about any of these in terms of longevity, stay power, the way they move on the face. I don't find them to migrate. I don't find them to break down weird or wear weird. Obviously, that is completely dependent on a lot of super personal things with you. So your skincare, your skin type, your prep, your set, everything like that. When I am showing you these demos, the only thing that I have on underneath is the Rhode Peptide Glazing Fluid. My puppy bit the top off of it, so, but this is the only prep step, the CoverGirl one. It's the only one I have a gripe with. It clings to my dry patches. The other ones do a really good job of hiding dry patches and kind of disguising them and not having the actual pigment of the product cling to dry patches. The only one that I have noticed emphasize dryness around my nose and sometimes around the eye area, or even like a little bit of, like, I've had a slight eczema flare up on this side of my face for a couple weeks. The only one that I notice emphasize that is the CoverGirl. It's not always, but it's sometimes, and it's something I think to be noted, because this one does have, in my opinion, the most noticeable powder satin finish on the skin, and I think that could be why it emphasizes dryness on my face the most. This one, I will say, definitely the most fluid formula, so it's definitely the most watery in my opinion, and because of that, it can sometimes look a little bit streaky if you are a little bit lazy with application, and that's just like a user error, like take the time to blend it out, but it will sometimes show brush strokes the most, in my opinion, if I'm not careful. I think it looks good. Like, coverage is very light medium. It does build though, so if you let the product actually dry down in between each layer, you get a lot more coverage out of it, and it builds really nicely. It, you know, evens out my skin complexion, helps with disguising discoloration, hyperpigmentation, all of that. So really great experience with that. I do like the set down if I put a setting spray on top of it. So if I don't powder it and I kind of just use like something like the Tatcha Dewy Luminous or something like that, I think it helps negate that powder finish and just taking a little bit of extra time to prep on my dry areas so that it's less prone to clinging. But beautiful product. I also wanted to say, before I forget, to have this be like more controlled, each application is 2 pumps max, but I never went past 2 pumps just so that because I feel like that'd be cheating if I used like 4 of one and only 1 of one and was like, this one has so much better coverage. So 2 pumps max with all of these. Moving into Chanel Waterfresh Tint. This one obviously has the least amount of coverage. However, the demo you're seeing is 2 pump, but I will sometimes wear like 3 to 4 and I get such beautiful coverage. This outperforms a lot of my favorite foundations in terms of how realistic this looks. I feel like it's such a beautiful, comfortable wear. That's also like one of the reasons why I'm so in love with it. I just love the way it wears throughout the day. I've worn it in cold climates and I've worn it in super hot, humid climates consistently. Like, I've worn this in 100-degree plus weather, and although my face will sweat, when the sweat dries, the complexion touch is still where I've placed it. Obviously, I do some good prep stuff, but I just want to say it's not like a product that wears off weird throughout the day. It's beautiful, it's hyper realistic, it looks moisturized. I love the noticeable bouncy effect that I get from the not complexion touch, the Waterfresh. I love the bouncy effect that I get from Waterfresh, and I just love how lightweight and how realistic this looks. So it remains supreme in my opinion. Now, the other two that have really great, more full coverage capabilities in my opinion. So the Rose Ink one, beautiful. This shade specifically 080, it matches my undertone so perfectly. Like, it just has the right amount of warmth to it to where it like really matches the rest of my skin on my body, and it's like so good because it just, the shade is perfect. Same thing, this one can be really built up to like maybe light to medium coverage on my skin. It completely hides hyperpigmentation for me and just evens out my skin tone so beautifully. I love, again, the radiant bouncy feeling that I have from this. And this one also, in my opinion, kind of disappears the most in terms of the way it feels on the skin. Like, this one, and sometimes with the Chanel Waterfresh, but with the Rose Ink one specifically, for whatever reason with this formula, it's one of the ones that I completely forget that I'm wearing, and it just looks like really good skin, and it doesn't settle into like pores, fine lines. It's just a really beautiful product, so I love that one as well. And then with Chanel Complexion Touch, in my experience, this one has the most coverage. So this can be light, super sheared out, to medium full coverage. I mean, I don't want to say full, because when I say full, I'm thinking like full flawless, but for like being a skin tint, the coverage on this is pretty wild. Like, it's so good. It even can hide the moles on my face, which I think is a pretty good sign like of the coverage, because if something's more on the light coverage side, my moles are still visible. In this demo, I left the freckle under my eye uncovered because I typically, you know, put concealer under my eyes. So you can see that, but in comparison to the beauty mark that I have on my left cheek, it's pretty much not visible. And obviously a beauty mark is a lot darker than like an acne hyperpigmentation. So that really shows you the qualities of the coverage in Complexion Touch, which I think is pretty great, especially for this being like a, you know, serum tint. And I love this. So I think it's really great. Like, it's just, they're all good. They're all good. You just have to go based on the one that you think looked the best. But I really don't have anything negative to say about any of them aside from the CoverGirl one just having that slightly more satin finish and clinging to dry patches. But if you don't have dry patches, the CoverGirl one is such a great affordable option in comparison to the more high-end ones. And with all four of these, if a little bit more coverage is really something that you're looking for, they are transformable in that sense where if you, as long as you are letting it dry down in between each layer, you can build up the coverage. So put your first layer on, your second layer, and then if there are certain areas that you want to spot and really add extra coverage, apply it to the back of your hand, wait for the product to almost dry down and get slightly tacky, and then use the product in that slightly tacky state to then, you know, isolate areas on the face that you want to give coverage. Don't go in with it when it's still super fluid and very watery and then try to isolate coverage areas. Wait until it's dried down a bit, much like you would use a concealer when you want to keep that coverage. Keep that in mind when using these, and you know, use the product to its best capabilities by not just applying it in each layer when the product is still wet. Give it that time to really set down, and I think you'd be surprised. All right, so other than that, I don't think there's anything else I wanted to hit in this video. I hope this was informative. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions regarding any of these products, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I will have information listed and linked in the description box down below. If there are any other similar, you know, drugstore to high-end product that you want to see a full in-depth review and comparison video on, please be sure to leave it in the comments down below, and I will do my best to do that content for you. Let me know any other long form videos that you really want to see in the near future, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching this one. Bye everyone.